The 2023 Minnesota Vikings schedule has officially dropped, and helping me break it down is Vikings.com's Tatum, Everett, and Ron Johnson. My name is Gabe Henderson, and welcome inside the TCO studios for the 2023 Vikings schedule release show.
Yes.
I know, I'm excited.
Feels so good.
Guys, before we dissect this season for the Purple this year, let's go into the full slate of games, starting with week number 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. After that, the Vikings have a short rest. You get the Thursday game out the way. You travel to Philly and play them Thursday Night Football. And then you got the Chargers at home, at the Panthers the first day in October. Then you got the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs, followed by the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Afterwards, you got the San Francisco 49ers at Green Bay Packers, 2 games on the road at Green Bay Packers, at the Atlanta Falcons, and then you come back home to face the New Orleans Saints. And then you go back out west, George Payton and the Denver Broncos, followed by a Monday Night Football game against the Chicago Bears here on ESPN. The Vikings finally get a bye week, week 13, and then they're on the road for 2 straight games against the Las Vegas Raiders and then the Cincinnati Bengals, and then they round the season out with the NFC North, the Detroit Lions at home, the Green Bay Packers at home, and then a possible primetime matchup against the Detroit Lions here to start the new year off. Ron, the first 6 games are what we're going to talk about to start things off. What game out of those first 6 games stand out to you thus far?
Well, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, honestly, the Minnesota Vikings, I hate to say it, they have given them one of the toughest starting schedules and finishing schedules when you look at when we'll talk about that when we get to the end of it as well with Cincinnati, possibly in another primetime game. There's 7 primetime games, possibly 8, but the Philadelphia Eagles, as good as they were, the second place team, I guess you'll say, the losing team in the Super Bowl, that's just a tough early slate. You're only going to have 3 days really to rest before you have to travel, and then you have to turn around and play one of the most physical teams in the NFL. That's a tough start of the season.
Very tough start, but
Very
the
tough.
fact that you get that Thursday game out the way to start the season off, I'm sure Vikings fans are excited.
Oh, but the owners have approved too, so we can come back.
Yeah, you got to watch those TBDs down at the bottom just in case.
What about your 6, Tatum?
I think I'm going to start with the Panthers there. It's the first time you'll see Adam Thielen in a different color jersey.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of insane to see him. I know the NFL named this as one of the top 10 revenge games, having Adam Thielen against his former team being the Vikings. And then that leads right into that Kansas City Chiefs game. The Vikings have never played Patrick Mahomes before. When they played the Chiefs last, it was Chase Daniel.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time the Kansas City Chiefs will be playing in US Bank Stadium, and that's obviously a big one to watch.
For sure, and the fact that you have them here, the Vikings had the second best, well, they were tied for the best home record at 8-1 last year. So the fact that you get the Kansas City Chiefs, and then we move to week 7, and you have the San Francisco 49ers at home, that bodes well for this Minnesota Vikings
I just
team.
hope his brother can't come so he can't do a TikTok on the field. Like, no
I think he's in hot water. I think
no
he's in hot
TikToks
water.
at US Bank Stadium. Like,
I mean, it is the best sporting experience in all of sports. So if you're going to do a TikTok, why not do it there? But, I mean, you do have week 7 through week 12. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this Minnesota Vikings team to get better in that middle chunk of the season.
Yeah.
Ron, what game stands out to you between week 7 and week 12?
another juggernaut of a game, prime time again. I feel like the NFL is going to test Kirk Cousins to his limit this year. Monday Night Football. First, who knows who's going to play quarterback for the 49ers? I'm guessing Brock Purdy will be healthy by then. But that multiple set offense, that ability to move, I am excited to see Kyle Shanahan versus Brian Flores. Because that's what this game's going to be about.
Yeah.
It's going to be about how can they stop that high-powered offense that Shanahan has run year in and year out. And then watching Deebo Samuel up close, like I've been waiting for this one. I wanted the Vikings to draft him years ago. So getting to see him up close, this is going to be a fun one.
Ron, I feel like there's a theme with you right now. You picked the 2 primetime games. So clearly you're in for like watching it on. I mean, you'll be at
And
the
multiple
stadium.
set offenses. Like
Right.
I like both of those teams, like Jalen Hurts. And now, and it's not about Brock Purdy. It's about that George Kittle. I mean, even though he's the Iowa Hawkeye, and we hate the Iowa Hawkeyes as a Gopher. Sorry, people. I know Iowa as a state is great. But yeah, no, I love these multiple set offenses. But yeah, primetime games. Hey, why not?
It's hard not to have that, though, when
Yeah.
there's 5 of them on the schedule, which is the most that we've seen in a Viking schedule in recent seasons. It's great to see because that obviously puts your team out there for all the eyeballs.
And baby Kirk O'Chains might even show up. So, I mean, come on.
It's got 5 opportunities, possibly 7. But week 7 through 12, Tatum, I know you went revenge game for week 1 through 6. Is there another revenge game in week 7 through 12 that you got your eye on?
I think you could talk a little about revenge games, right?
Okay.
I mean, you look at the New Orleans Saints coming to Minnesota. That's always been a very heated battle ever since the 2009 NFC Championship game. And so, yeah, I've got my eye on that one. Obviously, new quarterback, a lot of newness there. So that's why I think going into the Denver Broncos the next week, then they meet their guy. They see Sean Payton. It's going to be a really interesting team. We're not sure what the Broncos are going to look like at all. Again, a lot of new faces. Can Sean Payton turn Russell Wilson back to his former self?
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, I've got those two I'm looking at those two right there. And again, common theme, the Broncos are a Sunday night football game on NBC.
One thing that we will know is that week 13, the Vikings will finally get a bye week. Ron, having a bye that late in the season, is that helpful or is that hurtful?
Both.
Okay.
Most people want it in the middle, but it's not possible to always get. When we see these schedules, like when we get to look at the rest of the NFL, I'm pretty sure like the Chiefs and the Eagles probably have the best bye week. I mean, that's just my guess.
Like week 9?
Yeah, probably. The league loves to reward the winners, and so I'm pretty sure they probably have the middle of the road bye. But when you look at that late bye, it could help big time because one, you're going to have to take that West Coast trip to Vegas. But two, coming off that Monday night game against the Bears is going to give the guys a chance to rest late in the season and maybe some bruises and bones and some beat up, muscles give a chance to heal before you have to go play the Raiders.
You mentioned the Raiders, but if you look at that back half of the schedule, which I know we're going to look at in a second, those division games can really count. If we're in the same position that the Vikings were in last season, and you're looking at Green Bay, 2 Lions games, if that's the cream of the crop in this division this season, you want to be your healthiest heading into that final stretch of the season.
I'm going to stick with you, Tatum. Week 13 through week 18, what game do you have circled? You talked about the 3 divisional games. What games really stand out to you when you think about those last finishing the season strong games?
I'm excited that the Packers are coming to play here in December, New Year's Eve. I think it's going to be a great time, the regular season finale, and selfishly, I'm just excited not to be at cold Lambeau. I'm just excited to have a roof on a December game. I mean, just the facts here. I'm spitting facts. That's it.
If you look at we literally had the worst way to end the schedule last year. At Chicago, at Green Bay. You get both of those teams. Well, you get at Green Bay early in the season, but you get Green Bay at home and Detroit at home to end the season. Ron, what games stand out to you?
Well, I mean, the Detroit Lions. Come on now. Detroit Lions at the end of the year. And I like how Dan Campbell ended last year's season by saying, if we're not going to the playoffs, you're not going either with the Packers. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this will be a chance for Dan Campbell and Kevin O'Connell to say, if the Vikings beat the Lions, maybe that keeps the Lions out of a wild card. And if the Lions win, maybe they're in a wild card. At that point, I think the Vikings will be already crowned, or they have to beat the Lions to be crowned NFC North champs, and it's between the two teams. I mean, that's what the NFL really wants, like the last game of the season between the Lions and the Vikings, because in the past, that game's meant nothing to either team playing that last game. The Vikings are already in, and the Bears are terrible, or the Vikings are already in, and the Lions are terrible. Now you have two teams that it really matters, and that could be fun. That could be who's going to win the NFC North, and here's your chance. And then both coaches have to prove it. The other one ends up in the wild card. The other one ends up, what is the 3 seed maybe?
That would be great because the Vikings have changed the course of history. They have not been to back-to-back playoffs since 2008 and 2009. So hoping to change the course of history this year. But Ron, it is now my favorite portion of the show. It is prediction time, Vikings fans. And before we move forward, we got a flashback because last year, Ron Johnson did his prediction right there in that seat on this show. And this was what he said about the 22 Minnesota Vikings.
Most likely the Vikings are going to be in the playoffs at that point. I think the goal is going to be, where do they fall? Is this win going to help them get a bye? I don't know what it's going to take this year in the NFC, but again, they're an 18-1 favorite to win the NFC overall, not just division. So there's some people out there, and it's getting hammered right now in Vegas. So it's one of those things. People are bullish on the Vikings. Like, I don't know if it's the change in coach, but that could be the key.
Ron, you almost hit it right on the head. And I know a lot of Vikings fans, or just fans in general, gave you a lot of flack on social media, but man.
Yes, good job, Ron. Pat on the back.
Yeah, every once in a while, my grandma used to always say, a dead clock is wrong twice a day. So I was right. I was actually wrong, though. They won 13 games, and so that's even more impressive because I know some of those games we didn't assume they would win. And Kevin O'Connell found a way to win it. I mean, in his inaugural season, 13-4, that's some big shoes to follow of his own doing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year.
Well, Tatum and I, we want to keep our jobs, so we're not going to predict any of the Vikings games or Vikings record this year. But Ron, round 2, you're number 2. Wins and losses. What's your prediction for the Vikings in 2023?
Win. 17-0. 17-0. We're done. Show's over. No. So, starting off the season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a quarterback conundrum. They don't even really know who's going to be the quarterback. So I think starting off the season, the Vikings have that game just because the Vikings are established. They just have to figure out their defense.
Second straight year, they started the season off with a win.
Moving off to Thursday, sorry, Vikings fans. If you're a very Vikings fan, turn away for 30 seconds. The Vikings are put in a tough position, have to go play the best team in football, the Eagles. I think the Eagles are better than the Chiefs. I personally do. I think the refs should not have let the Chiefs into the playoffs. It should have been the Bengals because we saw what happened, and I'm not going to go into that. But the Eagles, that's going to be a loss. That's a short turn on 3 days rest. That's a loss to the Eagles. But then you move on to another young quarterback, social media quarterback, as they call him, in Justin Herbert. There's going to be a quarterback clash of the Titans, Kirk O'Chains versus Justin Herbert. I think it's going to be a Kirk is going to have a chance to outduel him. This is a Kirk Cousins game. I think the Vikings win this one when they travel. When they travel to here. That's a long flight for them coming from L.A. And then you go to the Carolina Panthers, as Tatum alluded to. Adam Thielen, it's the heartwarming story. Adam Thielen might go for 150 yards. Bryce Young might have a great day, but that's not going to matter. The Vikings are going to beat the Carolina Panthers for the simple fact. I think at this point, the run game is going to be figured out.
I thought you were going to say Bojangles.
No,
that's for you to bring back to us. That's for you to bring it back to us. I've never had Bojangles. Gabe speaks highly of it.
Man.
Rashad Bateman, former Gopher, speaks highly of it. So maybe you have to bring us some back. But I think they beat the Carolina Panthers. We saw what happened last time, KJ Osborne. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but wait for KJ Osborne to do it again in front of Adam Thielen. Say, hey, I still got it. Moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're coming home. Let's be simple. Patrick Mahomes, he's elite. They have a new weapon. They're going to win. Now, it is their first time, and I think the stadium, they can make it hard for him in this stadium. Brian Flores' defense, though, the thing about Pat Mahomes is he moves on the fly. It's going to be a back-and-forth battle. Justin Jefferson, the only way to win that game is going for 200 yards, so maybe we see it. Moving on to the Chicago Bears, and that's a loss for the Vikings. Moving on to Chicago Bears, they're going to win that. It's at Chicago. I was torn because Justin Fields is going to be Jalen Hurts light. You will see a lot of the Jalen Hurts offense in the Chicago Bears offense this season. You see the weapons they've added. You look at they traded to get DJ Moore now. Jalen Hurts actually has a A.J. Brown light, I guess we'll call him. So the Bears are trying to look like the Eagles, but they're not going to look like the Eagles. They're going to lose to the Vikings on that one. The San Francisco 49ers now Monday night. Again, here we go with this primetime Kirk stuff. It might hold true because the 49ers on Monday night are really good. The 49ers as a whole are good. I don't care if Kyle Shanahan has to play quarterback. The 49ers offense moves. Unless you break all four quarterbacks' arms, they're going to be just fine. That's the only way they lost that playoff game. So the Vikings will lose, unfortunately, on Monday night at home to the San Francisco 49ers. But then you get to travel to Green Bay. You get your get back. You get your get back. And now you get to see Jordan Love for the first time. And this is how I know the NFL loves Jordan Love, because he didn't give them to the Vikings. He didn't feed them to the Wolves early in the season. He said, let me get Jordan Love warm, so that when the Vikings play the Packers and everybody's watching and Aaron Rodgers is tuning in, Jordan Love looks halfway competent. They're still going to lose. Jordan Love is going to get absolutely eaten up by Brian Flores. He's going to have time to see what this offense looks like with Jordan Love. And that's the Vikings win against the Green Bay Packers, the hated Green Bay Packers. Then they go to Atlanta. It's a win against the Falcons. Again, the Falcons are another team. Maybe it's Desmond Ritter's show. Maybe they have a great game with the tight end. Maybe they bring in Fairy Dust and Spider-Man. I don't care. They're not going to win that game. But it's going to be a good game, though. I will say Desmond Ridder is a really good quarterback. He's a young quarterback, and I'm looking forward to him being very good. But I just think, again, this offense indoors, it can be one of the greatest shows on turf, and you're going to have another non-weather game that Kirk Cousins can just kill it. Now moving on to the Denver Broncos, so that's a win there. The Saints. Move on to the Saints. Dennis Allen will not be skull chanting. He's not that dumb. He's not. He's a very smart coach. He knows what happens when you skull chant and you mock the Minnesota Vikings, but he will leave US Bank Stadium with the win that he's been looking for, that the Saints are hoping to get back. That team has revamped. They added some weapons. Michael Thomas is even talking about he's finally going to play. Like, he hasn't played in 2 years, and now he's happy to play because I don't know why. Moving on to the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton, we know what you're trying to do out there. He might skull chant in Denver because he can do it. He's at home. They will beat the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson, I love him. Sierra, I hope she's out there doing the 1-2 step, but that's about all the steps that they're going to get because the Vikings are going to find a way. Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison, I haven't even talked about him. At that point, they're going to be rolling. They're going to be hitting on all cylinders. And that ball flies a little bit lighter when you're in that altitude. And so Kirk Cousins will have it going there and spinning that ball. Chicago Bears Monday night, it's prime time. Doesn't matter. Kirk Cousins is rolling this point. They will beat the Bears. I just don't have faith in the Bears. I don't know if they have an identity.
Going into the bye.
Yep.
8-4. That's a good place to be if you're a Minnesota Vikings team, right?
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Okay.
8-4, just win the bye. We've seen teams lose the bye. Let's not forget about that, Gabe. So you do not want to lose the bye. Everybody be home. Whatever Kirk Cousins does, do that. How about that? As a team, whatever Kirk does, do that. Text Kirk, find out what he's doing for the bye, and you do that. We don't need to go to Miami. We don't need to go to Vegas. It's coming. You're going to go. So don't go. Just wait. Don't go there early and then have to go back. So no, win the bye. But yeah, 8-4, it's a good start.
So you're not saying so you can't go to the Strip one week and then just stay there for
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
Now, unless Kevin O'Connell plans it that way and say, hey, guys, we're going to go out early. I'm going to give you guys a free trip
I don't
to
think
Vegas
that'll be on
for the
the
week.
plan.
Right.
But Las Vegas Raiders are going to go out there well rested, and they're going to win. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback, but honestly, he hasn't made it a whole season, and I don't know how long. I think they'll be playing against a backup at that point. They will beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Cincinnati Bengals, this is a tough one because it's flexed. They will lose to the Cincinnati Bengals because Jamar Chase, I'm not going to say he has a better gritty because I don't want to get in trouble for that, but it's up there. And that whole crew is cold-blooded. They have to go to Cincinnati, which is a tough place to play. I played there. It's cold. It's dreary. You don't even feel like you're in the football stadium. They will lose to the Bengals on the road, but then they get to come back home and play the Detroit Lions on Christmas Eve. And I will tell you, people, when you wake up in the morning and open those presents, there will also be a W for the Minnesota Vikings under that tree. They will beat Dan Campbell and the Lions. Then they get to get the Packers at home again. Back-to-back. This is a great holiday stretch.
Prime time, too.
Really?
Prime time, 7:20. Most people will be leaving the game and the ball will be dropping very soon.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we're going to. Hopefully we'll get champagne on the post-game, on iHeart, fan line. We'll get to pop some champagne as the ball drops, as the fans are calling us from wherever they're partying. It will be a victory, though. It will be a victory over the Packers. That means they have swept the Packers. And then at the end, they get the Detroit Lions. And this is the one I put a question mark. I'm not going to lie. I put a question mark here. At this point, they're 11-5. I put a question mark. They can finish 12-5. They can finish 11-6. I'm going to say 11-6. I'm going to say Dan Campbell has a lot to lose in this last game, and he wants to win it. So the Vikings are going to lose that game to the Lions, unfortunately.
11-6, double-digit win season. I'll take that. Especially coming off a game where you're 13, a season where you're 13-4, that's not bad at all. What do you think about Ron's predictions?
I mean, in order for this to happen, you're going to need some of that late game magic that they had this past season. When you set the record for most single win games, that last drive, all that stuff, you know that you can win those games like that. Now, granted, different roster, but this coaching staff knows how to win those close games, and you don't get to be 11-6 without some of that magic from last season.
Ron, what makes this schedule favorable for the Vikings this year?
It doesn't.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't feel like it's a favorable schedule, but this is what I do like about it. The one thing that fits is they don't have too many juggernaut games. When you look at the teams they draw, when you go to the playoffs, you draw a tough schedule. You draw a tough opponent on the other side. But they do have some very favorable travel schedules. They give them a ton of primetime games. I think the only favorable thing is maybe we see a different Kirk that was never unlocked before. Kevin O'Connell found ways to unlock him last year. We know psychologists are important, mental health is important. Kirk Cousins is in a different headspace. I mean, the dude was at Disney World when I saw him and we were chopping it up, and he was buying Black Panther stuff. So the fact that he's going to Wakanda, I'm looking forward to seeing Kirk Cousins just absolutely go out there and destroy the NFL in prime time, because what better way? And I don't know if the Vikings will ever do it, but if they ever look at a colorway, Kirk Cousins has to have a Wakanda uniform. You got to go all black with the purple and gold accents and just do the Kirk Cousins Wakanda special uniform. Now, hey, I don't know if Nike wants to do it, but I guarantee they'll sell a ton of uniforms if they did it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that it's not no easy feat, right? You're facing the previous conference championship game participants, 5 of the 7 division winners from 2022. I mean, it's just a very tough schedule. But when you really look at it, it's only tied for 18th. So it's winnable.
Yeah.
11-6 is doable despite all of those facts. And obviously we understand that the NFL is pulled parity. So I think honestly sets up pretty well. As you said, travel, you don't get back-to-back home games till the end of the season, unfortunately, but you're kind of dispersed. You're not on the road for too long. You're not, you've got the late bye. I don't know. I think it's a really favorable schedule.
I like that. I also like the Vibranium Vikings also. Kirk can get some Vibranium. I mean, we'll see. But, yeah, very favorable.
Yeah.
8 home games, 9 away games this year for this Minnesota Vikings team. And understanding that gives you guys 8 opportunities plus 2 preseason games to come witness a Vikings game in person this year. So be like us. come watch the game in person, and we'll see you there. For Tatum, Everett, Ron Johnson, Curly Hurst, and Paige Yeager, my name is Gabe Henderson. Thank you again for tuning into the 2023 Vikings Schedule Release Show.